Hey guys, my name is Parker, and I'm going to share my story with you in hopes that this can kind of help you see an example of what it looks like to share a story as you build your team and get the ball rolling on support training. So here we go. I hope it helps. Um, hey, thanks so much for taking time to sit down and listen. And I wanted to just share a little bit about myself and where I came from, where I'm at now, where I believe the Lord is calling me to go in life as I aim to serve Him. So I grew up in the church, and my dad was a youth pastor. So from a really young age, I just remember always going to church. Like church was like our second home. We were there before everybody else on Sundays. We'd leave after everybody else on Sundays. We were there Wednesday nights. I was there multiple days during the week, visiting dad at work. So from a really, really young age, I was able to see like church ministry and see the ins and outs of how even programs function and how youth events were done. And my dad was a youth pastor, and during that time, I heard all the stories of Jesus and the gospel, and it was such a good church to grow up in. They're very gospel focused and gospel centered, and so I believe, like, I was 7 years old, and my sister Paige, she's older than me, she came in one night and she was like, Parker, I asked Jesus into my heart. I'm a Christian now, and I, being a competitive 7-year-old little brother, couldn't let my sister do something without me doing it. So I was like, I want to be a Christian. You can't be a Christian and I can't be. I'm not a Christian. So I went to my mom and I said, hey, I want to be a Christian. And she explained the gospel very clearly, and we prayed then. And whether or not that was like the exact moment that Jesus changed my heart, I do believe that at a very young age, I was aware of my sin. I was aware of who God was. I was aware of Jesus's life, death, and resurrection for me, and how that changes my life. Even at the simplest, 6-year-old understanding, I believe that the Holy Spirit was a part of my life and was guiding me then. So fast forward a few years. Middle school was tough, like all middle schoolers. You get super insecure and self-conscious about everything, and that was true of me. And then I get into high school, and I was like involved in everything. I was, I was leading worship at church. I was, in varsity sports. I was in choir, and I was trying to do everything, and I wanted to please everybody. And that goes along with that insecurity and that self-consciousness where, like, my life was, I had to be the good guy, right? Like, I had to be the guy who got first place, but who also was the teacher's pet, but who also, memorized the most amount of Bible verses. And so that was kind of like my life for a while. And then my junior year of high school, I was 16 years old, and I ran cross country. And one day my dad picked me up from cross country practice, and he sat me down. He's like, hey, bud, look at my arm. And so I looked at his arm, and it was like his whole arm, all of his muscles were like twitching in his body, like uncontrollably. And he's like, hey, I think I'm getting a little sick. Just want to let you know. And I was like, okay, like, that's fine. But, you're Patrick McGoldrick. You're the youth pastor. I'm Parker McGoldrick. I'm your son. Like, nothing happens to the McGoldricks, That was kind of like my mentality. And a month later, he found out he was diagnosed with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a disease that your brain doesn't send neurons to your muscles, and eventually they just kind of deteriorate and die. And at that point, at that moment, I remember exactly where I was when it happened. Like, it was just like this switch went off from my brain, and I started building walls, and I started pushing everybody out. And I kept the same image, right? So I was still involved in everything. I would still, do everything. But I did not pray. I did not want to pray. I did not read my Bible. I got really, really angry and really distant from my mom and my sister and my dad at the time. And my best friends, I shut them out. I didn't know what to do, right? And the Lord, at that time, I didn't know it, but He was working on me. And then a year later, for some reason, my dad's disease progressed more quickly, and he passed away my senior year of high school. So that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And at that point, I was just like, nope, I'm going to a public university. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do all this, and I'm going to party, and I'm going to, get rid of Christianity altogether. And my mom, thank you to all moms, she said, you're going to a Christian university. And I was like, fine, but I want to do what I want to do, so I'm going to study music. So I went in as a music major. Long story short, right before I go to college, I go to a week of summer camp. And when I was there, I saw so many people filled with the love of Jesus and so many people renewed with the love and the grace of Jesus. And I remember sitting there weeping in the back, and I was like, I don't have this and I want it. And that verse in Psalm 50, it says, restore to me the joy of your salvation. That became true instantly. And the Lord just overwhelmed me with grace and love and restored the joy of his salvation on my life that I had known since I was 6 or 7. And it was such a beautiful story. So I get to school, I'm a music major, right? I'm sitting on a piano bench, and I'm sitting there, and like my head's in my head, and I'm like, I'm not going to be I need to go into ministry. I can't play piano for the rest of my life. And so I switched my major to biblical studies. Long story short, was able to do a lot of preaching and a lot of teaching, and now I'm here in North Carolina. I'm at seminary, so I graduated with a Bible degree. Now I'm at seminary, continuing my studies. I'm working with a church called the Summit Church, and let me tell you a little bit about this group called Reliant and the Summit Church and how they are partnering together and how you can help.